Hey everybody, so in this particular video we're going to go over another example of how to do a cost of production report. This is on page 5 of that handout. If you ripped off the first page of your handout though, because that's what I told you to do, this is actually page 4 of your handout. So one thing we're going to do before we start is down here where it says inventory in process July 31st, all these question mark gallons, we're going to change this 25 to 45%. That was a typo on my part before I handed this or printed this out. So we're going to change that 25 to 45%. Now in our previous example, we knew how many gallons were in process at the end of July, but here we don't. So we're going to do some math. We're going to break down the steps a little differently to figure that out. So just showing you another way that you can figure out some of this information. Now I am not going to scroll back and forth up to this box. You guys have it. So when I reference something on there, you should be able to know where that is, okay? So I'm going to go on to step number 1, and we're going to fill in what we know. So for group 1, remember we always start with our 3 groups, and our first one is always inventory and process beginning. We know that we have 30,000 gallons. We're still working with that ice cream. We don't actually know what's in group 2, but we know what was transferred. So on our what we know sheet, it says gallons transferred to packaging in July, 149,000 gallons. So we're going to put that 149,000 right here. Now we can figure out what's supposed to be in group number 2. So if we end up with 149,000 and we started out with 30,000 gallons, we are going to end up with 119,000 gallons. So we just do 149,000 minus 30,000. We're going to get 119,000 right there. That look a little even. Okay, now we can't actually go on to group 3 yet. We don't know yet what group 3's number is going to be, but there's a way we can find out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to step number 2, and we'll come back and we'll fill this in just a minute. So if you remember from yesterday, this percentage of materials added during the period, remember we always put all the cost of materials in at the very beginning of production or when we request those materials. So group 1, since that was started the month before, that's going to be 0%. It's always going to be 0% for materials for group 1. Group 2 is always going to be 100%. And then we also know that group 3 is going to be 100%. So let's do some math. We have 30,000 times 0%. And that's going to give us 0. Let's do something real quick here, so I don't have to keep going off screen. There we go. 119,000 times 100% is going to be 119,000. And then our transferred or completed equivalent units for materials will be 119,000. Now, if we look back on our page, it tells us the direct materials cost for July is 155,000 gallons. This is the second thing on the what we know page. So we know that the total units to be assigned cost, the total equivalent units for materials, is 155,000 gallons. And because we know that, we can figure out what our missing numbers here are supposed to be. Okay, so we had 155,000. And the units we transferred out were 119,000. So we're going to do 155,000 minus 119,000. And we are going to end up here with 36,000 gallons. Okay? And again, this information was just taken from line number 2 on that what we know. We know our direct materials cost for July is for 155,000 gallons. So those gallons we're missing have to come from what was left over in that inventory. Now, because this is 100% of our group 3, then doing some little backwards math here, this is also going to be 36,000 gallons. We'll do 149,000 plus 36,000 gallons, and we end up with the total units to be assigned cost of 185,000 gallons. Okay. We're going to go on to our equivalent units for conversion costs. Now remember, our group 2 is always going to be 100%. It's the easiest one. We're going to do it first. 119,000 times 100% is 119,000 gallons. Our group 1, back on the what we know information, it tells us that 10% of that was complete. So remember, when we're looking at the beginning inventory and it tells us the percentage complete, we need the inverse of that number. So 10% is complete. We still have 90% to complete for conversion. So we're going to put 90% there. And then on our bottom one, group 3, remember we changed this percentage to 45%. We have 45% of group 3 completed by the end of the month for conversion costs. So 30,000 that we started out with times 90%, we have 27,000 gallons to account for costs here. 27,000 plus 119,000, we get 146,000. And then 36,000 gallons times 45%, we get 16,200 gallons. And our total equivalent units for conversion is going to be 162,200 gallons. Okay. In step number 3, we're going to take our total units and we're just going to copy them down here. Right, so we have total units, 155,000 gallons for materials, 162,200 gallons for conversion. And then from our what we know information, our total direct material cost for July was $620,000. So over here on total cost, we're going to put 620,000. Our cost per equivalent unit for conversion, we need to add together direct labor for July and our factory overhead that was applied for July. So here we're adding 90,000 from that what we know information and 33,272, and we're going to get 123,270. Oh, sorry about that. $272. Think back to our class on Wednesday. The cost per unit is always going to be total cost divided by total units. So when we do that for our materials, we should get $4. So again, this would be 620K divided by 155K. And then our cost per equivalent unit for conversion should be 76 cents. And again, that's 123,227 divided by 162,200. Okay? So we've made it through step number 3. Our next step, we're going to figure out the cost for each of our groups. So we know for materials costs, just one second here and get everything all centered correctly. We know for materials cost, the cost per unit is $4. We just figured that out. So we're going to put our $4 in here. Sorry, the font's doing some weird things. And we know our cost per unit for conversion costs is 76 cents. Okay. we're going to take those equivalent units that we found up in step number 2. So we have 0, 119,000, and 36,000. And then for our equivalent units, for conversion, we have 27,000 units, 119,000 units, and then group 3, we have 16,200. Now we're going to multiply everything out for groups 1, 2, and 3 on each one, and then we're going to add down. So 0 times $4, we're going to get 0. 119,000 times $4. Flip my page here. 119,000 times $4, we're going to get 476,000. Zero plus 476,000 gives us 476,000. 36,000 times 4, we're going to get 144,000. And then adding that all together, we get 620,000, which is what our total cost for that was supposed to be. There we go. Do the same thing down here. Make that all, it's all the same again because for some reason it's just acting up today. Here we go. For our conversion cost, 27,000 times 76 cents, our total cost is $20,520. 119,000 times 76 gives us 90,440. We add those two together, we get 110,960. 16,200 times 76 cents, we get $12,312. And when we add that all up, we get our total $123,272. Okay. Last thing we're going to do is take this information now and put it into our cost of production report. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's all, that font's not going to do anything funky on us. Now, before on our inventory and process, we had the material and conversion costs already broke down. Here in that what we know section, it just gives us the total for that. So the total cost there is $121,800. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to list those costs. I'm going to pause this video. When I unpause it, it's going to have all those costs in there, so it's going to be a little they're all going to seem like they disappear here in just a second. As you can see, I have our materials and conversion costs in here. Remember, we're going to add across and then we're going to add down. So 0 plus 20,520 is going to give us 20,520. 476,000 plus 90,440 gives us 566,440. And 144,000 times 12,312 gives us 156,312. When we start adding down, our cost of completed beginning work in process is going to be $142,320. Our transferred and completed costs is $708,760. And then finally, at the very end, we're going to get $865,000. $865,072. Sorry about that. And this is our other cost of production report. So make sure if you're struggling with these, if you're getting confused, that you set something like this up. In fact, I think I might just leave a template like this for you guys to fill in the information in case you need it on your homework. Make sure to watch the other videos where I go over the last part of chapter number 3. And I will see you guys soon.